Evening, everyone. It's the Mates FC podcast. My name's Dave Chase, joined tonight by our welfare officer.
Hi, I'm Andy Tellis. I'm the welfare officer and one of the coaches at Mates and Football Fitness.
And also one of our managers.
Hello, I'm Rich. I'm one of the managers at Mates FC, and I am part of the setup at Football Fitness Club. So
anyone that's not seen us before or know what we do, Mates FC is a slightly different football club. We do not want commitment. We put our games up as events, and if you fancy playing, if mental health issues have meant that you find it hard to get out of the house, or you've lost touch of your passion with football or your previous team, or you just want to come and have a kick around, put your name down. We get in contact with you on the week of that game. And if you still fancy it, come and play. It's all free. We supply the kit. We just want to get you back out on that pitch. Not interested in winning, not interested in anything like that. Our only goal is to get you back out there and enjoying yourself again. So, Andy, what's coming up tonight?
So tonight we've got a really full show. We want to hear your comments again.
I think you're Wogan.
We want to hear your interaction tonight, so get the comments up. We've already had a comment up from Ava saying, "Wave, Dad." And we've got a very special guest on tonight, so we're really pleased to have him. And we'll be asking him some questions. We'll be talking mental health in football and what it's like to be a professional under the spotlight. We'll also give you a challenge update, so where we are with our lockdown challenge and the scores on the doors. And then we can't forget the Pierce goal review. So we'll be bringing that up. So start thinking about any great goals you saw this weekend in either the Premiership or in where the real football happens, League Two. So, yeah, if you can get them up, and if you've got any videos, whack them on. But we really want it interactive tonight. So, yeah, if you can start getting all your comments up, and we'll try and answer any questions.
Lovely stuff, Andy. Thank you. Right, so tonight we are joined by a patron of Mates FC, Luke Chadwick. So we'll bring him in, if it works. Evening, Luke.
Hi, guys. How are we all?
Tip-top. Yeah, just give a bit of background to your involvement. Now, about this time last year, I saw an interview you'd done with the BBC about mental health. I think it's Mental Health Awareness Week, and it's about mental health in football. And it's a brilliant article, really interested, and it's something we put out across our social media because it's exactly what we want to target and highlight, basically. But yeah, just go straight in the deep end there. Sorry, but yeah, basically, we approached you to ask if you'd be interested in just being a face and giving us a bit of support with launching Mates FC and just being a bit of a patron. Well, being a patron to us because it was really nice to read how positive you were about boosting people's mental health in football.
Yeah, obviously it was an honour, a pleasure that you got in contact. I was quite surprised, to be honest with you, a bit. Like when you spoke about what you were doing, it sounded like a fantastic opportunity to be involved, but more a fantastic thing to do for them people that potentially have been suffering with mental health. And there's no better way than getting out in the open, having a run around, kicking a ball about, which is obviously brilliant release and sort of a positive mentally healthy thing to do. So it was great to get involved. I'm conscious I ain't really done much for you yet. I've been pretty busy myself, so I haven't got to a session or a game, but I'm sure in the future that I'll be able to pop down and see you all doing your thing.
And that's the thing, it is, but this year we haven't done much either. It's just how it is. But yeah, it's I think even in the last year, seeing how mental health issues have affected pretty much everyone across the country in some way, there's just more and more coming out about just getting it out in the limelight, really, isn't it? And bringing it to people's attention. And one of the things I've really noticed here is with everything we do, there absolutely is no stigma with it. I don't feel awkward about, and I think it goes for the same for the rest of our rest of our management and coaching team, it's just second nature. I think the last few years, being open and talking about mental health issues has just become the norm. And, you know, that's a brilliant thing. And people like yourself, putting yourself out there and talking about your own experiences has been brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that's the key to it, isn't it? Really, just what you're talking about there, giving that environment where it's normal to be able to talk about your problems and sort of be open about them, because I think that is it's such a weight off your mind when you are struggling and you're going through tough times to talk about what's happening. I think this last year has taught us all that nothing can be taken for granted, and we've all got mental health, every single person, as we've got physical health. But in a situation we've been locked up at home for months on end, that our mental health's been fluctuating up and down, and sort of when you're going through them tough times to be able to talk about it. And that's why what you're doing is so fantastic, giving that opportunity, and obviously the take up that you've had in terms of your training sessions, the amount of players you've got coming to your fixtures. It's brilliant to see, and it's brilliant that you're giving them people the opportunity. Where they're probably feeling low at the start of it, but the more and more that they have the opportunity to get out there, to speak to other people who might be suffering at the same time, it does make things so much easier. So it's great to see, and I know that you've obviously been tough the last few months, what with this latest lockdown, but I'm sure the appetite will be bigger than ever when you get back, and not long now, just a few short weeks, and we'll be able to get let back out on the footy pitches again.
Absolutely, and as you say there, the uptake we've had has been mad, and we have seen what's been brilliant is we're starting our Sunday League team in next season, and that's something we sort of planned a little bit further down the line, but we've just in those few games that we've had, the 10 games that we've had since July, August, we've had 79 different people play for us in that time. Just 79 people off the street, basically, come and play for us, turn up, and we don't have that clickiness that you might worry about joining like a new team that are established, because every time you come to it, probably 2/3 of that team have never met each other before, and you just go straight out on the pitch and play, you know, which is a bit crazy. But it seems to really work and really help people by not having so much pressure of joining a cliquey team or an established group. And we've seen people literally just after one game get their spark back with football, whether it be after injury or something like that. So by starting our Sunday League team, it's to allow people to sort of move on. Now they've got their passion back and they feel comfortable with us. Well, let's take you on the next part of that journey, basically. Rich, Andy, do you want to go for it?
Yeah. So I think one of the like, we've just been looking at some of your sort of highlights of your career. Obviously, playing for Man United must have been one of them, and scoring your goal against Leeds, one of the biggest rivals, and just like, how does that feel? Like, you know, talking about highs and lows, that must be up there. Is that your greatest like moment in football, or have you got another one?
Yeah, that was definitely my best moment at Manchester United. Obviously, I'm a Cambridge boy, so I live in a little village to the south of Cambridge. So I moved up to Manchester when I left school, and I never even really imagined that I'd get a chance in the first team. So to get some games in the first team, to score that goal against Leeds was without doubt the highlight of my Manchester United career. Like, I had real highs at Manchester, real lows as well at times, but it was obviously an incredible experience to play for the biggest club in the world. Strangely enough, my best moment in football was scoring for my beloved Cambridge United at the Abbey Stadium. They're the team I supported when I was a kid. They're the reason that I probably wanted to be a footballer, going to watch them as a little 7, 8, then 9-year-old, then all the way through, and sort of through the glory years as well with Dion Dublin, John Taylor, where we nearly got in the Premier League. So to score a goal up the Newmarket Road end, the stand where I used to sort of go as a teenage boy with my friends, that was probably my greatest moment, the proudest moment I've had on a football pitch, because that was always sort of the fantasy as a kid, was to score a goal up there. So it's probably a bit bit of a strange answer. I'm conscious that I'm a little bit weird anyway. So, but that was my greatest moment in football, was scoring against Southport at the Abbey Stadium in the National League. So,
surely signing for West Ham must have been a massive highlight as well, though, Luke.
yeah, those are like honoured to have played for West Ham, like particularly at Upton Park under the lights. There's no better atmosphere in football than that. So it was incredible to sign there. Obviously, I went with Alan Pardew, signed me, who I worked with at Reading as well, and it was a really tough season, to be fair, in terms of we had a really good squad, but probably never hit the form we should have. I think we probably should have won the league with the squad we had, but sneaked in the back door in the playoffs, and Bobby scored the winner at Cardiff, and it ended up being a fantastic night, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I've had a season ticket I was in the East Stand, just above the Chicken Run. So yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah, I think I can remember you giving me some stick when I was running down the wing.
Yeah, that'll be him.
Luke, this is our captain just joining us, Danny Warner.
Hi, Danny.
Hi, Danny.
Hi, Luke. You all right, boys?
Yeah, all good,
thanks.
thanks, mate.
You must have, like, talking about highs and lows, you must have been gutted to have missed out on United's biggest ever game at Roots Hall against Southend.
Yeah, obviously it's all my biggest memory of Roots Hall. I played there for Stoke City, and I ended up collapsing on the pitch, and I woke up in Southend General Hospital. That's my biggest memory of Southend. But always enjoy going there. Lovely old school stadium. I like it at Southend.
It's where real football happens.
Yeah. They were struggle. We beat you though there, didn't we, this season?
Sorry, I can't hear you. To be fair, Luke, I think most people have beat us there this season.
It's all picking up now, though, isn't it? You found a bit of form last month or so.
Yeah, we've got Noel Ranger back to get the goals, and he lasted 20 minutes in his first game back. So, yeah.
Flipping heck.
But and talking about lows, how did it feel? Obviously, the Liverpool sending off. You know, how was Alex Ferguson? You know, like in that moment.
Yeah, it was mad. Like I didn't know what was going on. Couldn't believe that I was the last defender because I was a forward player. And when the ref sent me off, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. And I sort of walked down the tunnel. The crowd were clapping me for some reason. I didn't know whether to clap back. And I got in the dressing room and I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen here? And I think Yap Stam was in the dressing room and he said, oh, what's wrong with you? Because he got injured. So he thought I'd been injured as well. But I said, no, I've been sent off. And I don't think he could believe it either because I didn't really tackle anyone. So it was a bit of a strange one. But fortunately, the gaffer was so pissed off that we got beat that he really forgot about me. So I just sort of hid in the corner and got away with it, really.
Is he the greatest manager that you've ever played for? Is there somebody else that sticks in your head as like all-time coach or manager?
No, the manager, Sir Alex, was far and away. I was lucky enough to play under some great managers, but the gaffer was on another level, really. He was such an incredible person, sort of run the football club at Manchester United from top to bottom and created such an incredible environment and culture that it sort of bred success. You wanted to run more than you ever thought you could for him. All you wanted to do was, if he said that you'd done well, it was the best feeling in the world. It'd make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And he had an incredible gift of getting everyone pulling together in the same direction, which obviously was a reason for the incredible success that he had at the football club.
Because it's amazing, like when you look at some of the players that you played with and against as well. So who's the best player that you played with and against?
Best player I've ever played with, Scholes. He was an absolute genius. Like, he was the best player every day in training. He had like eyes in the back of his head. He was so intelligent, awareness, could play off 1 touch, 2 touch, ping a 50-yard ball, play short passes, score from 30 yards. He was an absolute genius. The best player I've ever been on a pitch with at the same time in opposition would have been Thierry Henry when I came on for United against Arsenal. and he didn't have a great game that day, but he was still like he was one of the best players I think that's ever played in the Premier League.
Great team as well.
Luke, who's your toughest opponent, as in like hardest as in physical, and then hardest as into demoralising you in a game?
I think because I didn't really play much at United, so we used to do a lot of 11v11 in training. And I'd obviously be in like the team that weren't starting, and I'd play wide right all the time. And the hardest player that I was quite fast years ago, and I could get past most of them, but Mikel Silvestre was so quick and strong, I couldn't seem to do anything to get past him. I played quite a lot when we were kids against Ashley Cole, and he was again so hard to get past because he was so quick on the turn. Like you could, even if you had a run on him, he could just seem to turn and run faster. So I'd say they were probably the best two left backs that I've ever played against.
Do you still speak to any of your old teammates, like Man United?
I speak to them a bit. I've started go up there sometimes to do the Man United TV. They're really scraping the barrel at the minute, getting me up there to do it. But I see a few of the old lads up there, so still keep in contact with a fair few of them.
You said about moving up to Manchester away from Cambridge, like when you were quite young. How did that affect like sort of your mental health, being away from your family and being in digs and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was hard. I moved up there the day after me year 11 school prom, I was up bright and early the next morning with a bit of a hangover, drove straight up to Manchester to start my new life there. And where I lived on like a terraced house was my digs on Littleton Road in Salford, which was, I could only describe it as exactly the same as something out of Coronation Street. It was the complete opposite to the little village that I lived in Cambridge. And I was incredibly shy, quiet, timid young boy. And I found the first few weeks really hard and was so homesick. I'd be on the phone to my mum in tears every night saying I wanted to come home. But once I got through that original sort of homesickness, I loved it. Them 2 years as a scholar where you've just left school, you're not doing them lessons that you found boring anymore, you're playing football every day, and it was a brilliant time sort of, and obviously making friendships that last forever, living in each other's pockets day in, day out, at the Cliff as well. So I can't grumble about that sort of apprenticeship that I had at United.
And did you have to, like back then, did you have to do like when you get onto the first team, do you have to do initiation and boot cleaning and all those things?
Yeah, we had to do. There was a initiation called Fun and Games. It was called, and it was all the first year scholars. So when you moved up there, you had to go in, and every single player would be there from the first team, reserves, everyone. And I don't really want to. I believe this is a bit of a family show, so I don't want to go into what happened, but it was a real scary time. And fortunately, stuff like that don't happen anymore, as far as I know.
We heard about the tennis on Under the Cosh. Had a little listen to that.
Yeah, the tennis. Yeah. To be fair, it got a lot worse than that. The tennis was all I thought I could say on there, so I'll keep it to myself.
Who was the biggest practical joker that you've ever played with? So at United, like the jokers in the pack were probably Ryan Giggs and Nicky Butt. They were always quite lively, involved with most things. Probably I played with a few characters, to be fair. I'd probably have to say, I don't know if you know them. You probably have heard of them, Glenn Little and Robbie Blake when I was at Burnley. They were absolute lunatics, but they were a real good laugh. It was a real good dressing room there. We weren't great on the pitch, but it was funny in the dressing room. We've got Simon's joined us. Simon's one of the coaches, one of the ambassadors. Hi, Si, you all right?
How you doing, guys? How you doing, Luke? You all right?
Hi, Simon.
How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, all good.
He's a West Ham supporter, so he's excited. We've got some questions coming from the people watching tonight. So if you had to go on a night out, 3 players that you'd play with that you would invite out.
That is a tough one. I'd probably go I'd probably choose Bex because obviously he's got a bit about him and he'll be able to get us in the clubs and the pubs and all that sort of thing. I'd say I'd probably go with Glenn Little, who I just mentioned, and I think I'd go for Gary Doherty, who I played with at Norwich, the Ginger Pele. He was an absolute legend and he was great on a night out as well. So it's a bit of a strange three. I don't think many people would imagine see the three of us together, but I'll go with that.
Let's have a look if there's any more questions. Did you have good banter at United, or did Ferguson stop it all, or was he quite into the banter?
Me personally, didn't have any banter whatsoever. I'd sit as quiet as I could and hope that no one noticed me. But the banter was good at United. Obviously, there was incredible characters there. Obviously, when it was work time, it was work time. But there was fantastic characters there that did make some really funny times, and the banter was good. To be fair, not mine, but the banter was good.
Rich Bastian, who I know is a massive United fan, was Littleton Road next to the Cliff training ground, the Curzon Estate in Manchester. It's well dodgy.
Yeah, we didn't go out much in the evening. So I stayed in the bedroom, watched the telly. It was quite rough, but like I say, an incredible time. And it's so friendly up there, sort of compared to maybe going around London, like in Manchester, like everyone would speak to you. It was a real friendly place, really enjoyable place to live.
So Luke, what was Roy Keane like as a captain and to play with? Because obviously he's quite controversial, didn't he? And I quite like him as a pundit and that now, and I think he's been a great player. But what was he like to play as a captain for?
Yeah, I remember I was on loan in Antwerp in Belgium, and then I come back and I was quite surprised that I got sent in with the first team straight away. And in Belgium, I was one of the top boys. I could sort of not train that well, and I'd still play at the weekend. In my first training session back, I think I gave the ball away quite sloppy a couple of times, and Keeney just absolutely lost it, and he was calling me every name under the sun. I thought, oh my God, what have I bloody got myself into here? But like, he done that with everyone, whether it was a young kid like me or Ryan Giggs. If they weren't on it, he'd tell them, and he was the ultimate captain, the ultimate leader. He drove standards on the training pitch so high. Every day was so intense, but in an elite environment, that's how it's got to be. But off the pitch, he was a wonderful man. He'd sort of go out his way. He used to pick me up. I couldn't drive at the time. And he'd go out his way to pick me up from my flat, take me to training. He'd really look after the team. It was like a family in that dressing room. And I think you need to have that to get the success that obviously the club did.
We've also had a question come in. Who was the youth team at United when you were there? And it'd be interesting to see if any of the others went on to have a good career that you played with in that youth team.
Yeah, so in my youth team, probably the shining light all the way through. The year older than me was Wes Brown, who was an absolute Rolls Royce of a player. He obviously had not a bad career. In my group, there was John O'Shea, again, fantastic player, had a brilliant career at Man United. Other players that had good careers, Richie Wellens, who's now the manager of Salford, he was a year above, as was Dave Healy, who was obviously an excellent goal scorer for Northern Ireland and played for a few good clubs. I think other than that, the year below, Danny Webber had a really good career, was a really good player. I think they were the only ones that really, Paul Rachubka, a goalkeeper who had a career in the game. I think they were the ones that sort of had really good professional careers. Some, obviously, Wes and John O'Shea at Man United done brilliantly well there.
What's the best goal you've seen? What's the best goal that you've seen, actually witnessed?
It's hard. The best goal, he didn't actually go in, but the biggest bit of genius I've ever seen was Ryan Giggs against Charlton away. I don't know if you remember the goal where he sort of hit it on the volley from the halfway line. The ball hit the bar, come back out, and Solskjaer nodded it in. I think I was on the pitch. That's the best bit of play I've ever seen on the pitch. In terms of goal, none spring to mind. It'd probably be one of mine. They're the only ones I can remember.
We've got Pierce joined us. He's one of the coaches.
Hello, mate.
How you doing, Luke? You okay?
Yeah, all good, thank you. How are you?
Good, yeah, not bad, not bad. Yeah, it's been interesting listen so far. But yeah, I mean, listen, I wanted to probably change tact a little bit. I know you're involved in Football Fun Factory. How did you get involved? Let the people who are watching know what it's about. And how different do you find coaching kids to playing professional football and getting involved in that different aspect?
Yeah, so great question. When I finished my career, when my career came to an end, it weren't really on my terms, and I just sort of fell out the game. And it's probably the biggest challenge I've ever had was sort of dealing with the end of my football career. That was gone now, and I sort of fell into coaching. To be honest with you, done me UEFA B, UEFA A, went through down that path of doing all my coaching qualifications, and then fell into a job at Cambridge United in the academy, and it should have been a dream job. Like in my head, that's what old footballers do. They just fall out the game and then they start
seamlessly into management.
Yeah,
yeah.
But as a player, I never really saw myself as a coach. I never really wanted to go into coaching. It was just a case of, I suppose that's what I do now. I do that, and
sure.
I probably didn't really enjoy it that much in terms of I'd probably not dealt with the fact that I weren't a footballer anymore, and I just threw myself into doing something different and just never enjoyed it. I never thought I'm going to be happy doing this for the rest of my life. And then I had the opportunity to speak to a couple of ex-colleagues that had sort of set up the Football Fun Factory and spoke to them about it, and it was just so different to anything I've ever done before. Like the Football Fun Factory is all around offering unique footballing experiences from children to 2 to 12 years old. It's not a development program. We're not linked to professional clubs. It purely is around kids of all abilities, boys and girls, giving them the opportunity to play football. And like, there's no barriers to it or anything like that. And it's not. We use football as a vehicle to develop positive life skills like teamwork, communication, sportsmanship. We celebrate that on our programs more than the little boy or the little girl who keeps scoring all the goals. It's all around building them positive life skills and maybe stepping back from coaching the kids how to be brilliant footballers, because it's not. We want to develop a lifelong love for the game. We don't want to develop the next Lionel Messi, because there's loads of places where they can go and sort of try and develop as footballers. So it's such a rewarding organisation to be involved with, because it reminds me of when I was a kid. When I started playing at 7 or 8, I can't remember the coach telling me any tactical or technical information, but I remember making it loads of fun, and I remember running around with a big smile on my face, and that's why I stayed in the game, because them first experiences of the game were absolutely incredible, and I just fell in love with it.
No, I mean, listen, I think the last point you made about a coach who made football fun, I think a lot of people who fall in love with football or enjoy it to the extent that we keep playing, it's probably that first coach and that first seed that still lights their fire. So yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm really interested in what you're doing there, and I think it's excellent. I'm sure the kids enjoy seeing you every weekend as well.
Yeah, and I think what you say there we all, as long as if it was positive, we all remember our first coach, don't we? Everyone does, and it's such a privilege to be in that position, to be sort of affecting so many kids' lives, hopefully in a positive way, and like they'll remember all our coaches because they were their first football coach. As long as they're doing their job properly and making these experiences incredible for the kids, they're going to be in that child's life forever as they grow up and always be remembered as their first coach. And that is such a privilege to have that opportunity.
Yeah. We've got a couple of more questions coming. How was it playing under Roberto Di Matteo of MK Dons as a foreign manager? What was different about him and Sir Alex?
Yeah, I think Robbie was like an incredible tactician, knew the game really well, was a lot more standoffish in terms of didn't really build massive relationships with the players. Probably he had Eddie Newton with him who done most of the coaching, and Robbie would just sort of pick the team, talk tactically, didn't really have much banter with the lads. Like Eddie was left to do all that, but he was like a brilliant manager, got incredible results at MK, got us into the playoffs, and then went to West Brom. So it was completely different in terms of working with him, Sir Alex, and a lot of the other English managers who were probably more around building that camaraderie and sort of building the team spirit, where Robbie was all sort of a lot more tactical in that respect.
And did somebody's also put, would any of the current United players get in the team that you played in?
Oh, that's a tough.
That is a tough one. Put you on the spot there, boy.
Great question.
Who's that, Andy? Sorry, Luke.
No worries.
That was Joel.
God, Joel, I like that.
Joel Toms.
I'd like to think in years to come that we'd say that Rashford and Greenwood potentially, that they've got the ability, and like if they can keep continuing on the path and sort of scoring the goals and putting in performance, they could be in and around the squad. You've probably got to say Bruno, he's got to be thereabouts, but then who do you
exactly
leave out?
Mate, that's a hell of a side you was involved in there, my friend.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was very fortunate to play in such an incredible team, like full of wonderful, wonderful players.
And then we had, you'll be pleased to know, Luke, that Liverpool were 1-0 down.
I am pleased to hear that, yeah.
Great for now.
Is Dave Robbo on, Andy? Is Robinson on?
Yeah,
I think it was Robbo.
He's massive Man United fan.
Yeah, he's put a couple of questions we've already been through. Just seeing if there's anything else. Please keep your questions coming in, and we'll try and get them on here. Just seeing if there's any more.
Look, from my point, what's your what was one of the grounds that you didn't like to go and play in because you thought you might, I don't know, quite hostile or getting a bit of stick or anything? Was there any grounds that you loved playing at, or you didn't, or was there?
I think most of the grounds I played at, I get a bit of stick, to be honest with you. So it weren't whether that be a home or an away game. But I think without doubt, the most hostile, aggressive atmosphere was going to Anfield with Man United. It was such a rivalry in Anfield. It seemed like the pitch was like a five-a-side pitch because it was so tight and the fans were right on top of you. You wanted to. When you were warming up, you wanted to just the ground to swallow you up. It felt like someone was shouting right in your ear, sort of thing. But that was without doubt the most hostile. Obviously, I managed to score at Ellen Road, which is obviously another fierce rivalry. But I think because Anfield feels so close and it is an intimidating place to go, particularly as a Man United player, where you know that hatred is so sort of big. But I'd definitely say Anfield was the one where you can really feel it.
And how do you cope, like, as a player, like with that whole, like you said, like the ups and downs and you know the abuse that you get that gets shouted at you, and some of it can be quite personal. And how do you deal with that as a player, like, because especially a young player?
Yeah, I think sort of, although it's probably not right, when you're inside a stadium, you just sort of accept it, as it were. Don't get me wrong, some of the things that are said probably shouldn't be said, but it's part and parcel of it. You're doing what you love doing. You're trying to stop the team winning, who sort of worked all week, the 30-odd thousand fans that are letting off all their pent-up anger and that sort of thing. I think you accept that to a certain extent. I think where I struggled personally was the more stuff away from the game. So whether that be in the paper, on the telly, that sort of thing, because I didn't ask for that. I was sort of a footballer, so I'll take that on the chin, what's said to me in a football stadium. But I think it's the other stuff that I found tough to deal with, and I really struggled with that, because like when I was a kid, I never really wanted to be famous. I was probably quite naive that being a footballer playing for Man United makes you famous. All I wanted to do was play football. It was never about sort of a celebrity lifestyle or anything like that. It was purely a love of football and wanting to be that to be my job, sort of thing. So it was on the pitch, you get abuse from the crowd, which like I say, some of the stuff probably goes a little bit too far, but in essence, that I can accept that. It was my real struggles came with what was said away from the football field.
And have you, like, obviously, I know, like, it's been quite publicised that, you know, some of that has been faced, and you've had apologies from some people that were probably like out of order at the time, and stuff like that. And it's I think you've been quite, you know, good in sort of accepting apologies and stuff like that. But we were talking the other day about, especially now with social media, and how that can, to your point, is, you know, it's completely uncontrolled. So from a young player now, like, you know, having that abuse come through day and night kind of thing, you can't get away from it at all.
Yeah, and that is a thing now. Obviously, the players choose to read it, but it's so hard not to. And even if I'm sure it's the same now, you're always looking for the negative. Like, there could be hundreds and hundreds of positive comments, but you see a couple of negative ones, and they're what sort of stick in your mind, as it were. Like in my case, in terms of when I put that tweet out or whatever about I struggle to deal with them things, like I never expected it to get as much publicity as it did, really. And in terms of the story come away from what I wanted it to be, it was never about the people that had said these things. I've got no angst against them whatsoever. It was one of them things that at the time I was just desperate for it to stop. I didn't hate these people that were saying these things. I just wanted them to stop saying it so I could sort of live a quiet life and just play my football, as it were. So it was never, all I was trying to say was, obviously we're in a pandemic, we're in a situation that we've never been part of before. Of course, our mental health is going to be fluctuating because we've never dealt with anything like this before. And I was saying, when I was younger and struggling, I didn't talk about it, which made it last longer, the bad feelings that I had. But if I was to have spoken about it earlier, it would have made me feel better. So the point I was trying to make was to say, if you're feeling low, try and talk about it. But it sort of got turned into, they think it's all over Nick Hancock, Gary Lineker, and it was never really about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Somebody's asked, do you have any superstitions or rituals before a game?
No, I don't at all. When I was a kid, I used to have a bowl of Lucky Charms cereal before the game, so I thought it brought me luck. But then they flipping stopped doing it, so I had to stop doing that. But I had not one for rituals, really.
You probably had a better game because you were hyperactive.
Yeah,
from all
the
colouring.
flipping E numbers inside me.
And then players that you most admire and looked up to. So who was a real influence on you?
I think the player I loved most growing up, and I used to, because there weren't much on telly back in my day. I'm sure you're probably not as old as me. You probably got a little bit more, but it was I used to have loads of videos, and I used to love watching Maradona. Don't get me wrong, he broke my heart as a 6-year-old boy in Mexico '86, but I just loved watching him play and sort of dribble with the ball and that sort of thing. As I got older and signed for United, obviously I had the likes of David Beckham and Ryan Giggs, who played in the wide position, so I could had the opportunity to watch them, and they were two players that I hugely looked up to as well.
Somebody's put, obviously your new coaching role, has it given you, it brought your love back for football after leaving the professional level?
Definitely, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I think I love football. I wanted to be a footballer because I love it. I love playing it. I still occasionally play now for the local village team just because I love running about. I love getting kicked. I love just the whole thing of playing football. I probably didn't love the coaching of it, though. I just didn't like the sound of my own voice stood at the side of the pitch shouting and moaning, and you can't control it because you're not on the pitch. So certainly now, where it's just all about just festering a love, like I said, just trying to make football enjoyable for all, it does certainly bring back that love and sort of reminds me of when I was a little one again.
And on that subject, that's something with this world of football that we're in at the moment with Mates FC. We're playing anyone. Now we're playing a lot of charity teams and a lot of teams that have got together for good causes, like Sands, for example. And we understand it's not like Alcoholics Anonymous where you've got to go and stand up and say why you're doing what you're doing. We just know that everyone's there for their own reasons, and everyone that is there understands that everyone else is there for their reasons, and they're all there to support each other. And it's I don't have much or any background in football, but it's just such a lovely atmosphere. And Piers and Andy, similar to yourself with what you're doing with Football Fun Factory. Now, Piers and Andy, locally, and Rich, all of them actually, they've all had a massive involvement in competitive local football. But Piers, Andy, what do you find different about how we're playing at the moment and the teams we're playing? So much like Luke was saying, you found it different, haven't you, playing and a different type of love for the game at the moment?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, I have managed, the last thing I did with competitive football was manage a side in the local Sunday league, which to us was a competitive level. And we'd go out and try and win football matches. The difference you've got here with Mates FC, like Luke's saying, it's about giving back to the game, because what you see every week is, as you've already pointed out to, someone might turn up a little bit sheepish and we're not really sure what he's going to do, and they may do nothing, but they've crossed the white line, they've got involved, they've got that social aspect, they've found themselves a little bit of fun for 90 minutes. And
I think
we lose or draw, we've had 7-alls, 7-6s, 3-0s, and it doesn't matter what the score is. It's about once you've made the effort to get there, you 100% will leave that afternoon with a good feeling. That's what I feel that we're offering.
You that are involved, you've got it's sort of ignited a different type of passion in yourselves, doesn't it, as well? Like a different type of football. It's a different approach to what you're used to, but the enthusiasm for what we're doing now and what you're doing with Football Fitness Club as well, you're still going at 100%, but you're doing it in a different way. And
I think the biggest thing from it, both Football Fitness and Mates, and even I manage a youth team as well. I think that the difference is you get people that come along with different various abilities, and just seeing those players come on. So we've had guys that have turned up at Football Fitness, have never played before or had limited playing before, and they've gone through the drills and got themselves fit, and then you see them come across to one of the Mates games and get involved in a game and score a goal. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, 100%.
It just feels you, and it's the same with kids football. I manage under 11s, and I've had them since they were sort of under 7s, and watching them develop and get better. And it's a different type of coaching, because win, lose or draw, it doesn't matter. They're there enjoying it. And it's the same with Mates. We've got, like I say, we've got all different abilities. We've got a couple of ladies that are in the team as well. And everyone just enjoys it. And yes, it's competitive. And 100% I want to win, because it's just ingrained in you. And it was quite hard to get that mentality away at first. I'm not going to lie. It was hard to sort of go, it's about giving everyone equal time on the pitch and just enjoying it. But now, once you come to terms with, it's not about the result. It's about the getting people back out there, whether it be after injury or anything. I think that it's a real nice feeling. And the teams we played, I have to say, every team that we played, it's been an absolute pleasure. So we've seen some good goals.
Sorry, that little segue. Rich, one thing we talk about goals. Is there any update from the football, mate? We missed it.
I'll be honest. I haven't got I've got nothing I can look at the football on today.
Wow, so, you've got one job.
No, look, TV's off.
All right, I'll give the update. 1-0 Chelsea half time.
Yeah, sorry, Luke. Normally what I do is I normally sit there watching the football and my eyes are constantly on it, and they ask me a question. It's like, Kamara, tell me again. I know. But I've not got no football on today, so I can't tell you any updates.
So the last sort of bit of the show is also Pierce's goal bit. And so if you want to post up the best goals you saw this weekend, Pierce scored an excellent goal, Luke.
I've seen it.
Have you really?
I sent it. That's physical. It's an absolute worldie.
There you go.
Unbelievable.
Greenie, listen to that, my son. It comes from Luke Chadwick himself.
The aerobatics of a man of his age is
incredible. Incredible.
So yeah, get the goals up. Also, I think Dave will come on in a bit and just do an update around the challenge that we've been doing. So obviously, where we've been in lockdown, we've done the Land's End to John O'Groats. We've been doing walk. You can either do a walk or you can do it on a bike, and we've got teams of 5-a-side teams. And at the end of it, once lockdowns are lifted and we can play again, we're going to actually play five-a-side competition at the end of it, just to see who the ultimate winner is. My team, thanks to Rich doing about 100 miles a day on a bike, we're up there. We're up there, which is quite good because me, Dave, Rich are in the team out of the 5. So Luke, if you're not busy that weekend and you want to come and have a little 5-a-side, you can happily join our team because Dave said he's not going to play, but we're going to try and get him to play. So
I'll do my best. I don't think I'll be as fit as you lot with the amount you've been doing on that bikes.
But we're on our way back now. So we got there and we're on our way back, and we've been visiting stadiums. It's been unbelievable what people have been doing. We thought it would take weeks to get there, and we actually got there. Some of the teams got there in a few days, and it was like, oh, so yeah, we've been doing football stadiums, but I'm sure Dave will give us the update.
Yeah, I've not added everything up because I've been really busy this week. But no, first is still Groat Enders, and I've done this back to front. Yeah, top of the league is Groat Enders, and they've done 1,615 miles in, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks between 5 people, which is a bit mad. Second is mine and Rich and Andy's team, which is Twant FC. We've done 1,430. Now, what happens is Rich is on his bike and Ben in our team's on his bike. Basically, Rich is like a hamster wheel in that shed of his. And then Andy's like, Rich would do like 40 miles and Andy would do 1.6 miles. Like, that's not even going downstairs a few times in the day.
I'm working from home.
I have to, yeah, we're all working from home. I have to take him for walks. I make him meet me at a burger van, and then I take him for a walk.
Is that a carrot and a stick?
Yeah, sausage on a stick. And then coming in third, we've got Danny's team, which is Scrambled Legs. They are 1,374 miles, so again, brilliant. Fourth is Steps, 1,186, so well close, everyone. And then Pumpkin the Ball, they're on 970 as of Sunday. So they're really catching up with us. As soon as they can hit 1,000, I'm going to give them a bonus to build them up a bit. But we are smashing it with the goals. We, Twant FC, we've got 79 goals. Groat Enders will have some, but I haven't added them up. And then third is Scrambled Legs with 44, then 37 for Steps and 9 for Pumpkin. So I've got to work out how we can equal this out a bit, because if we go in with 79 goals and another team's got 9, it's not really a fair start. But then again, we're rubbish at football. Well, I am. And other people aren't. Yeah. But I'll just make the rules up so they work out that we're all right. So that's all right.
Christian's just put a comment on about Pierce's goal. He said, I've heard about this goal. Sounds like it came off his shin.
Oh, my God, Christian. You're better than that, my friend. You're better than that.
Is it all right to post it?
You can post it, my friend.
It's on 2 minutes 18, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something like that. I wouldn't know.
Exactly. It's that 2 minutes 18 is like when my life stops. Just, you know, when you think, I don't think anything's ever been.
I'll tell you a funny thing, Luke. We got to the game that day, And Piers walks on and he goes, "What's that?" And the other team, the away team, had bought a camera on a tripod. And he went, "What's that?" And I said, "Oh, they're videoing the game." And he went, "What are they doing that for?" He was straight, after that game, he was straight over to their manager. "I've got to get a copy of this."
He sent me links. "Oh, this is good. We should get one of these." But what they also have is, so Rich and Piers especially, they don't play for us. They're the managers. But every week it's like, "Oh, I might be busy this week, might be busy." And then they sell their children, they do anything, and they just turn up for the football. Any opportunity to get out there. Piers has just had an operation on his knee, but he'd be out there in a wheelchair.
Surgeon might be watching. Be quiet.
You didn't score that goal with a bad knee, did you?
That's why he got the bad knee.
It was pre-op, to be fair.
I was going to say, post-op, get out that one.
His bionic knee that he had installed. I'll bring Rich back.
Bring Danny back. Bring Danny back for me.
Okay.
Have you ever suffered a bad injury, Luke?
Yeah, I've had a few over the years. Probably the worst one was playing for Norwich. I sort of went into the advertising boards off the pitch and opened me knee right up, and there was like a couple of little micro fractures in there, and I ended up being out for about 7-8 months. Just couldn't get the swelling down. It was it was probably the worst injury that I had, I think.
That's probably the worst thing for a footballer, isn't it? Time off with injuries.
Yeah, particularly that one, because no one knew how long it was going to take to heal. So not when it's like a cruciate, obviously an awful injury, but you've got a time frame in front of you. It was just one of them where, like, every day you just didn't know what was going to happen next. So that was probably the toughest one. Obviously, injuries are horrible for anyone, particularly a footballer. But I used to have like a week or so just feeling sorry for myself. I was probably an horrible sod to live with, but then sort of got my head around it and just threw myself into the rehab and that sort of thing. But obviously the worst times are when you can't be out there running about.
Luke, you going on that, moving on from that subject as well, just going back to what you were saying about being homesick when you first started out, and also when you said about the grief you were getting from like back on the TV back in the day. You're obviously mentally really strong. How did you? Were there any sort of processes or anything like that you used to cope with those sort of issues you were faced with? Because obviously, with our mental health side of it, there's people probably watching that have struggled with that. Maybe there's a few little tips in there.
Yeah, I think I was probably really bad at that in terms of sort of I probably didn't get over it. I probably forgot about it, but didn't really deal with it. Like the homesick, I think, was just one of them sort of growing up things where I just got used to being away from home in the end, and was sort of, that was it. I think in terms of the sort of grief and that I got, it probably took me leaving Man United sort of when I weren't getting in the team anymore, and I felt more confident in myself, more comfortable in myself. I weren't sort of living under the microscope of playing for the biggest football club in the world. And I just found that sort of easier, and then just sort of dealt with it over a period of time and sort of learned to sort of laugh along with it. So because I was more confident in myself, if someone in the crowd or something give me a bit of stick, I could have a bit of banter back with them and stuff like that. Something that I'd never dreamt of doing while I was at United. I think time was a healer on that. I think because of how I was as a person, I could have dealt with it much better by speaking about it, saying how unhappy it made me feel. But because I was so embarrassed, I felt so much shame about it that I would never have done that at that stage in my life, which held me back to a certain extent as a person. I'd say more than a football player.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to talk about it now, I suppose. But yeah, I think it's ironic that you say getting out of the limelight, you've got more confidence, because most players would be. That shows how down to earth you are, because a lot of players would be the other way around, wouldn't they? They gain the confidence from being in front of a crowd and all the sort of publicity that comes with it. So
yeah, and I think that was sort of where I probably weren't the norm in terms of a professional football player where I probably was never comfortable with being famous, whether it was because of the way that I looked or as a football player. All I wanted to do was to be a footballer and play football. And probably when I went into it, I was quite naive in terms of I didn't really understand what it'd be like being a professional footballer and sort of what came with it. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. I wouldn't change any of it. And sort of even going back now to the real struggles that I had and not dealing with them properly at the time have all been part of my journey of what it's been so far in my life. So I wouldn't change any of that. And I do believe that like everything happens for a reason, doesn't it? And I'm sure that the lessons that I've learned from the problems that I've had have made me the person that I am today. And I've used that as to be like lessons I've learned and to even say, I mean, don't get me wrong, I know I'm no flipping big superstar, and me saying to talk about your problems is not going to make millions of people do it. But even if one person does it because of the issues that I had during my life, then it was certainly all worthwhile.
I think that brings it back to the Mates FC ethos, because again, like you say, we're not superstars. We haven't got a massive pool, but if two people come to a game and leave in a better position, I think we all feel that we've done a good job for the day, just simply facilitating that experience.
Yeah, and there's no better feeling than that of having helped someone. Like I got messages after I came out and said what I said, and people were saying it's sort of liberated them. And what you're doing, it's liberating people to make that step to go and play the game. Like you say, it don't make a difference whether they win the game, lose the game, score an absolute worldie like you did. It doesn't matter because they've been out there and they've sort of got out their comfort zone, and it makes you feel, and they'll go home in such a better place, that's what it's about, really, isn't it?
Yeah, no, go back to that. Sorry, I keep going about it. Were there any processes or tactics that you were using though, like to get you through that? Like, obviously, you subconsciously just dealt with it, but was there anything? Because there's going to be quite a few people watching that might have had issues, like not similar like at that level of football and everything, but that just maybe would take a little bit of positive coming from a skill you might have had. It might have, I don't know, it could be music or anything, just to get you away from that.
Yeah, I think in terms, like you talk about the resilience that it grows in, but you don't realise it at the time. It was just sort of my life. I didn't know any difference. I spoke about being more comfortable, more confident in myself. I think the big lessons that I learned when I finished the game and I was a little bit older and I understood myself a little bit more, and that's when I recognised that I'm struggling here. I needed help, and I was more comfortable talking to people that I didn't know in terms of getting professional help and speaking to people, and I felt like I could open up more to them, and I think that really helped me deal with my issues, being able to open up and talk about them. But like everyone's different, aren't they? Some people want to speak to a loved one. Some people are more comfortable speaking to a professional. So it's just certainly the being able to speak. And I found it so hard to begin with to talk about my feelings. But like anything, I think that first time is always the hardest. And I think it might be someone of your players coming to the game for the first time. They probably find that incredibly hard to do that the first time. But then as time goes on, it gets easier and easier, and they're probably feeling better and better about themselves. And then they might, after 6-7 games, then open up to someone and talk a little bit. And it's just having them different avenues and different people and allowing yourself to have that vulnerability. I think as a football player, I spent my whole life seeing vulnerability as a weakness, as a negative, when in reality, it's probably our biggest strength. And allowing yourself to be vulnerable and talking about your problems can really, it develops you so much as a person. You could feel like you're at your lowest ebb ever, but showing that vulnerability and admitting that to yourself and speaking to other people could make you come back a better person than you've ever been before and feeling better than you've ever been before. So I'd certainly say just allowing yourself that vulnerability certainly made a huge difference in my life.
And just before we just before we wrap it up, there's a couple more questions come in. So Christian said, team that you'd like to play in now. So when you see, so say you had your time again and you see like Premiership club, what team would you like to play for now?
Yeah, it pains me to say it, but I've got to say bloody Man City, ain't I? Because they're the best team. So they'd probably be the best team to play in. But hopefully United will catch him up again in the next couple of years.
Not Southend. It's not Southend. You sure?
No.
You could probably still go and get a game there now.
That's beyond like I've still probably got half a chance of getting in Man City, but I've got no chance of getting in Southend.
And then we've got Matthew Wary has said, should clubs or FA do more to support players who are let go? What support networks are there in place for them, considering what happened at Man City last year?
Yeah, with 100% loads more needs to be done. I've been the person in academy football who's released players before, and that was one of the reasons that I came out of that world, because I couldn't do it. Because I know it's so hard to obviously let a player go and then you've crushed their dreams to a certain extent, all that work that's gone into it, and then it's so hard to then offer help because you're the one that's let them go. You're the football club that's just let this child go, as it were, and they don't. The parents, the player, it's sort of there's that negativity about it, and then they don't really want your help to do other things. So without a shadow of a doubt, there needs to be so much more done in all areas of the game in terms of dealing with people, kids, adults, whoever it may be, when they've been released from football clubs, because it is such a huge change in someone's life, even from an academy player at 14, 15 years old who's put everything into doing that, and it comes to an end. There has to be more help out there, more avenues of help to help kids deal with this, and even adults deal with it at the other end of the game.
Yeah. And
I think with Heads Up as well, with the Heads Up campaign, with everything that's going on with, Mind, with mental health in football, the FA have definitely got this on their radar now, and Essex FA as well. We work with them closely, and they've got their mental health charter, and they're always looking for more things that they can do to improve it. And we're there at their beck and call to work with them and help them roll out anything we can in this region or wherever we can. But what else you got coming up with football? So many. Fun Factory. I'll get so confused with Football Fitness Club. Football Fun Factory. Now, that's something I've been on one of the webinars for that, about starting one up, and we've got we think it's brilliant. It's something we've really looked into. It's just at the moment, as you can see, we've got our hands quite full with lots of other things, and we need to be able to give things the time and the attention that they need. And this year's obviously been a bit of a bizarre one. But yeah, what you got up your sleeve with that? What's coming up with that when you get back?
Well, I think that obviously the most important thing is getting back. We've been out, our programs haven't been running for ages now. So obviously the end of March, we'll be back in action. All the inflatables will be coming out for the Easter holidays, which we're hugely excited about. We're sort of growing quite quickly. I think we've got head coaches starting in Milton Keynes, Manchester. I think we've in talk like quite advanced talks around Essex as well. So we're looking to grow nationwide in 2021 when it finally gets going. But like I say, it's such a rewarding job that I'm in at the moment in terms of getting people on board, and it does offer an incredible work-life balance for our head coaches. And like you talk about sort of the mental health, and obviously this period of time with work, people losing jobs and that sort of thing, we're in a position to sort of help people get back into work, to run their own business. So it's exciting times, and be interesting to see where the future takes us.
And as you say, that work-life balance, sorry, Andy, that work-life balance, we've all got full-time jobs, and this is time-consuming, doing what we do. But I think I can talk for all of us that it doesn't sort of stress us out, because we find it so rewarding. It's not like it's a massive. If someone said on paper, "Oh, now you've got to start a football team or football club, and now you've got to sort this out, and you've got to sort that," it's no hassle. It's getting down to that storage facility and getting the equipment each week to go and get all of that stuff out and get out to the. We're buzzing for it every week. It's like it don't matter that we're not the ones playing. Like we just love it, and it doesn't seem like the chore that it should be or the work. And I imagine from what you're saying, that rewardingness of what you're doing at Football Fun Factory is the same sort of thing, because you get in there, you're seeing them enjoying themselves, you're facilitating people enjoying themselves, and you're getting that start to their football life for, get a little kick around for them. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's what life's all about, isn't it? Obviously, we all need money and whatnot to live on, but it's the other things that you get your rewards out of. When you speak about your face lights up because you love doing it, and they're the things you're going to remember, isn't it? When you're 70, 80, 90 years old, you want to look back on life and say, "Oh, that was brilliant. I love doing that." And I can see that you guys are loving doing what you're doing, and that's what life's all about, isn't it?
And the thing is, the social stuff around it as well. We most of us went to school together, and but a lot of us haven't seen each other since we left school. But just this little group of having this little group together, and just the rubbish we talk, and just taking the piss out of each other, it's brilliant. It's like me and Si are a day different in age, and we've known each other for our whole lives, and all he does is text me farts. He just farts down the phone, and I just know another voicemail, and it will just be a fart. And I don't want that to ever change, and having him back in my life after we left school in 95, something like that. I've not really seen him since then, and a lot of them, but just getting the group back, this group, it's been brilliant. And we haven't even had a social aspect to it because of lockdown. We haven't even begun to start knocking around in the clubhouse and all that sort of stuff. And we've already got such a great little bond with all the people that have played with us. And I can't wait. I just can't wait to build this community more. It's brilliant. Andy?
I've got just one last question. And thanks for everyone who's written questions tonight. It's been really good. And thanks, Luke, for answering them all. I've got to read this one out because it's from my nephew, Isaac, and he'll kill me if I don't. He's just asked, Luke, who's going to win the Champions League and the Europa League?
I reckon that they're both going to go back to Manchester.
You heard it here first.
Played it safe.
Yeah, they're the only two teams I could think of at that time.
Perfect. Thank you so much for answering all the questions, and thank you guys for giving some really great questions there. So thanks guys for interacting again, and thank you, Luke, for being so honest and answering all those questions. That's great.
And you're welcome back anytime you want, mate. And obviously, we do desperately need people to play for our five-a-side football thing, because Andy saw me kick a football. Well, no, that's a lie. Andy saw me kick a tennis ball the other day when I took him out for his dog walk. Want to explain what happened?
Yeah, Dave found a tennis ball, and he said it's like walking my dog, having to take you out to get the miles up, and then he proceeded to go threw it up to kick it, and kind of missed it, and it just went about a foot in front of him into the ditch. It was at that moment, and I started worrying about the five-a-side competition and thinking, I think we've got to chat Luke up to try and get him across.
We were just walking around. Both of us were just pissing at it. It's like we haven't been let out. We're just both walking down this country path, pissing ourselves laughing, and all we're doing is just trying to walk down a path. That was literally it. We went up to these horses, and then they just walked off and left us. And like this is what happens to normal people. Normal people get to stroke a horse and can kick a tennis ball. Anyway, on that note, anything else you want to say, Luke?
No, keep up the great work, lads. Fantastic to hear all you're doing. Take care of yourselves, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
Top man, Luke.
Again. Take care. Thank you all, and thanks to everyone.
Good night.
And right, see you next week. Take care.
Bye.